This is Harriet Grayson, your host and producer for Community Culture Showcase. I'm really happy to meet with you again. It's been a kind of hot, muggy kind of summer. I hope you've enjoying yourself, taking advantage of the nice weather when it comes and heading out to our beautiful beaches and enjoying the sunshine. As always, as we go into the fall, we have lots and lots of art exhibitions and artists who are showing their work. It becomes a glory time for art galleries. We here at SEC TV have our own art gallery, and we're going to have another show towards the end of the year, sometime probably in December. And we certainly will invite you to come here and see our artwork. But in the meantime, I have a Rhode Island artist with me tonight, and she's going to talk about her wonderful photography and all of the things involved with photography. Welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about you and photography and your love of photography.
Well, cameras have been in my family my entire life. My father was drafted at 18 in the early 60s into Vietnam and was a photographer during the war. So I've been handed cameras since I was a little girl. I went into graphic design for many years, and in about 2011 switched over to photography, and I've been really enjoying it ever since.
Do you have a kind of a specialty, like some people have landscapes or portraits or whatever? I mean, do you have something like that? Do you have a specialty that you like, that especially?
I do, actually. I do a lot of landscape photography, and have actually moved into portrait photography now as well.
Uh-huh.
I spend a lot of time in the Hawaiian Islands.
Wow.
So I do a lot of Hawaiian photography as well.
So how do you get to Hawaii? I mean, that's literally 8,000 miles from here.
Yes, we have some family that lives there.
Oh.
So we're lucky enough to get to go visit every once in a while.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Is there... Hawaii is, I suppose, beautiful in terms of the flowers and, of course, dramatic in terms of the volcanoes and things of that kind. Is there something special that you like about Hawaii?
One of my favorite things about Hawaii is the colors there. Everything, there's so much rainfall and so much sun that everything is just very, very vibrant. And that's one of the things that really drew me to photographing it, was all of the vibrant colors you find in nature there.
And is there, I know very little. In fact, I've never been to Hawaii, so I'm curious. So is there differences in terms of a photographer's eye between different islands, since there are a number of islands that make up Hawaii?
Yes, the islands are very, very different. You have, everything from desert to there's snow. A lot of people don't realize that.
Wow.
There is some snow in Hawaii, to rainforests, to black and green sand beaches, all the way to volcanoes, and it's a very diverse environment there, so you can really photograph just about anything depending on what island you're on.
Yeah. Is there a particular island that you photograph mostly, or how do you get around?
Well, our family's on Oahu,
okay.
And then once you're in the islands, it's only about a half an hour to an hour flight from one island to the next.
Okay.
So I've been lucky enough to visit all of them at this point.
Ah, okay, all right. And do you have a special one?
Oh, if I had to pick my favorite island, I would say the Big Island, because it's so diverse. You can literally go skiing in the morning and snorkeling in the evening, and walk through a volcano crater, as well as walking through some wetlands and, beautiful jungles, all really in the same day.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So let me take you back a little bit and tell us a little bit more about Dad and the stuff that he photographed in Vietnam.
Yep, so he was a photographer in Vietnam, drafted at 18. I know, there's some stuff he won't let me see because it's a little too graphic, but he did a lot of photography of the entire war, hanging out of helicopters, all sorts of different things, and really brought photography into our lives at a very young age.
Did he exhibit his stuff?
He did not.
He did not.
No.
So it's just like a private, Would he consider doing an exhibition maybe with you, or so he could mount some of his own photographs?
Maybe, but I think that he mostly was taking photographs for the Army,
okay.
more for historical purposes.
Ah, okay, that's interesting. My father was in the Army Air Corps during the Second World War, and he was just an amateur photographer and took these enormous pictures of where he had been. Not in North Africa, that I don't know that I have any photographs of, but in China, Burma, and India.
Wow.
In that theater. And we have, when he passed away, I took his old photographs. And they're just an incredible collection of what the world was like in those parts of the world in the 1940s. I mean, I've got him taking a ride on an elephant. He's got pictures of women. Remember, this is British India, so it was Pakistan, Bangladesh, and what we call India. So he has pictures of Muslim women in the entire black outfits, from their head to their toe. They're completely covered in black, and they just have their eyes out. He has pictures from there, and it's really absolutely fascinating how this was his kind of legacy to us, in terms of a period in time that I'm sure doesn't exist anymore. And then, of course, he was in the Army Air Corps, so he's got a lot of photographs of planes and the planes that he was on. So it's so yes, wartime photography can be the history of the time.
Definitely.
Interesting. So your father, of course, my father was just an amateur taking his own stuff, but your father was actually being directed by the Army itself. So they own the photographs and not your dad.
Yes.
And they had no interest in ever exhibiting this kind of stuff, huh?
I don't believe so, no.
Well, that's a shame, because it would be interesting to see that, to not necessarily to relive it, because it was crazy times, but at the same time, it is a point in our history, in our American history, where we got engaged in this conflict, and there was a whole bunch of different people involved, and a whole bunch of different people who went in and out of the service. My brother-in-law served during Vietnam, and he doesn't have very fond memories, but it certainly was an important part of our history. So let's drift forward. So now here you are with the little brownies, going and taking photographs of the pets and the people in the street and all your friends and neighbors. And then how did it become something of a passion, so that it becomes a vocation?
You know, I've always taken photographs, and it's funny to me that it took me so long to land here as a career. But I did graphic design for about 15 years, and came to a point in my life where I needed a change, and went back to school and took a photography course. And I think it was the second day that I realized, like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Right. I often ask painters their evolution in terms of their changes in different medium and different styles. Do you as a photographer have that same evolution as an artist?
Somewhat, yes. I mean, everything started with film, you know, and now I'm primarily a digital photographer.
Okay.
And I started in landscape photography, and now I run a portrait studio in Richmond, Rhode Island, where I photograph everything from pets to babies to children to families. And I'm absolutely loving it. It is exactly where I'm supposed to be in life.
Right. And how did you know that?
Oh, as soon as I started learning more about photography, I think when I was handed my first digital camera is when I really was like, this is remarkable, and I just couldn't put it down. So
is the transition from film, which was kind of a hassle to create, to digital, where you don't get your hands smelling from chemicals, does that actually also help in terms of making that transition?
It does. It definitely does. And for me, taking pictures of children and families, digital photography makes a lot more sense, because I can take I can take a ton of photos to make sure that I get the right one. Whereas with film photography, you know, you had your 24 and you had to switch a roll.
Right, exactly. And then you had to develop the film.
Exactly.
Which was smelly and dark, and you needed a special room for it and stuff like that.
It's still pretty fun though, and
Okay.
I actually go back to URI sometimes and take some film courses just for the fun of it. They have amazing teachers there, so I always
University
find
of Rhode
it,
Island, right.
Yes,
right.
I always find it very inspirational to go back there.
And is there a particular photographer that maybe the audience might know that you found to be a good role model?
My favorite photographer now is a photographer in Hawaii. His name's Clark Little, and he does what he calls shoreline photography. So he actually jumps into the waves and takes pictures of waves and turtles in them and the islands through them, and it's really a remarkable thing.
So he's in the water taking the photographs?
He is.
Underwater?
He is.
And he has a special underwater camera, I assume?
He sure does.
Oh,
yes.
That's fascinating.
Yes, and I was lucky enough to meet him during the beginning of my career, when I was really nervous to make the leap into full-time photography, and he advised me to take a gnarly leap of faith. And every time I get a little nervous in my business, I remember that exact line.
Okay, and what does that mean?
To take the gnarly leap of faith, you know, it's not investing in yourself as a business is a pretty scary thing at first. So you really have to just believe in yourself and just kind of go for it is the only way to do it.
Do you actually have a studio where people come to you, or yes?
I do, yes.
In Richmond?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a private studio, and we have a lot of fun there. We do everything from bunnies and chicks with children at Easter time. We have Santa come visit in the winter.
Okay.
And everything in between.
And the way to get in contact with you is you have a website?
I do.
There it is, www.caitlincreations.com, and there's Caitlin's email and her phone number in Rhode Island to give people a call. And people can't just show up, so people need to make appointments, I assume.
Yes, it is by appointment only.
Right. The other thing that's kind of interesting, you went from sort of playing to making this a serious career, and you've been awarded stuff as a result of that serious career.
I have. I was lucky enough to actually twice be selected as a finalist in Nikon photo contests, and I've been printed in a few hardcover Best of Photography books as a result of that. And last year I was selected to receive a grant from the Massachusetts Museum of Contemporary Art. And that was really special because they schooled me a lot on running my business correctly, and it was actually a monetary grant as well, so that's very helpful. I was able to buy some nice, fun new lights for the studio and things of that nature.
Well, we know about lights for the studio. We know how expensive they are and how expensive cameras are. I mean, this whole room is filled with expensive stuff that you can't run without having good stuff. Exactly right.
Yes.
So that's wonderful. Did you enter a contest? I mean, how did these awards come out?
Yes, actually, the Nikon contests were during a class that I had. I had a really great professor who urged us to enter the Nikon contests, and I was, surprisingly enough, I had entered the second contest before I found out that I was a finalist in the first.
Oh, cool.
So when I got the letter saying I was a finalist in the second as well, it was pretty special.
Are those letters, they have a photograph of that standing in your studio?
They are certainly, yes, framed up in the art studio.
Oh,
yes.
That's great. That's great. Does that help you in terms of your business? I mean, does it matter to customers whether or not you receive these awards?
I mean, maybe to some, but for me, it's helpful, you know, to make myself really understand that this is the right thing and to keep going. You know, the beginning of starting your own business can be pretty frightening, but it really helped to push me along and make sure I didn't give up.
Okay. All right. So it's kind of an encouragement thing.
Definitely.
More so than simply having it as, I don't know, like a marketing edge for people who might not have any idea what that means anyway, getting an award. So
exactly.
Yes, that's interesting. So you have some photographs that that you sent me.
Yes.
And we want to show them. The first one that you sent me was sunset. Here it is. Tell us about this and tell us what inspired you to do this particular one?
So this was taken in 2013 on the island of Maui. It's actually a sunrise.
Sunrise. Look at that sparkling sun with all its tentacles out there.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It was taken from the summit of Haleakala, which is a dormant volcano that's over 10,000 feet above sea level.
Wow.
So in order to take this photo, we had to leave the hotel, I'd say at about 2 o'clock in the morning. And you're in Hawaii, so you're used to the warm weather. But when you get up to the top of the summit, it's about 40 degrees.
Okay.
So we had to bring the blankets from the hotel with us to wrap up in. And when you get up there, it's one of the best places in the entire world to see the stars because there's no light pollution at all. And you wait for the sun to hit the edge of the earth there, and you can literally see the curvature of the earth from up there. It's absolutely incredible. And the Hawaiians are up there waiting, and as soon as the sun hits the horizon, they start dancing and chanting to salute the sun. They do this every single day.
Wow.
And it's really a remarkable experience. It's about 27 miles up to the top, but as you're driving through the night, you can see the stars in a way you've never seen them before. And then once the sun is out completely, you see just for miles and miles of this volcano crater. And it's really quite an experience. I would recommend it to anyone who's lucky enough to be in Maui.
Right. Now you set up a tripod, I would assume, and that's how you take this particular photograph?
Yes. I actually did this without a tripod, which is pretty difficult.
Yeah, I would imagine, sure.
Yeah, especially since it's such an emotional place, it's kind of hard to get yourself to stop shaking. So there was a lot of deep breathing and keeping myself calm. It's a really interesting place. The Hawaiian legend is that the demigod Maui went up to the summit of Haleakala, and his grandmother helped him to capture the sun. And they forced it to slow its progression over the earth so that they would make the days last longer.
That is very incredible. Very incredible. Now I know so I was telling you earlier that I am a novelist, and I am fascinated by sunrise. So I write under a pen name Anastasia Goodman. In fact, my newest book is The Terrorist, which is right here. But my character, who is a police detective, because my books are mysteries, is named Sasha Perloff. And he has this religious, almost, response to sunrise. He lives near the water, near the ocean. And his thing is to go out and see, as you're describing, the sunrise. Because in his mind, so I'm the author, so in my mind, it is this idea of redemption, similar to what we're talking about with the Hawaiian legends. So there is a lot of kind of biblical allegiance to this idea of sunrise as redemption. And he is a character that is flawed and believes that God has a reason for and a purpose for him being, and he just has to figure it out. And by being present for sunrise, he's able to feel something that perhaps will guide him in becoming a really righteous person.
Oh, that's beautiful. I like that.
So sunrise is across all kinds of religions and across all kinds of belief systems, has this sense of being very, very important for the soul of us to get it right. And so that is very, very cool.
Yeah, really.
That's really good. Now, is this appearing in a book?
Yes, this is actually one of the Nikon finalists. So this appeared in a Best of Photography book at the beginning of 2015.
Now, can people actually buy those books?
I believe you can, yes. They're put out by Sigma, and I believe you probably can purchase them probably on Amazon.
Oh, okay. And it would then be... all of the winners are in this book? Is that the
Yes, all of the winners and all of the finalists.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's a really
It's
awesome
a big, heavy book.
book.
I can see that from looking at it. It's down here on our table. It's about, what would you say, a few hundred photographs?
At least, yes.
Yes. So that's great. That's a kind of a, what do you call that, a coffee table kind of book where people can kind of just browse through it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have another one, an interesting photograph that we have here of it's
a banyan tree.
Oh, okay.
So this is actually one tree.
Oh,
believe it or not.
No,
yes.
It's hard to believe. Yeah.
Yes, it's a banyan tree. It actually also happens to be on Maui.
Okay.
It was planted in 1873 and has been growing there ever since. It's currently covering almost 3/4 of a mile of land. Yeah, and it's
one tree.
One tree.
One tree.
Yes.
So what are these? All these looks like trunks. They are all.
So it has 16 trunks now.
Oh wow!
And all of the things you see hanging from it that look like vines are actually aerial roots for the tree.
The roots are in the out. Wow!
It's pretty amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Banyan trees grow in a lot of other places, but this is the largest one in the United States.
Oh my goodness!
It's quite an experience to stand under it. It's quite powerful.
And how tall is the first seemingly those branches? How high is that?
Well, so the whole tree at this point is up to 60 feet tall.
Oh my goodness! A couple of stories, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yep, and it's called Banyan Tree Park. And the Hawaiians will actually move buildings to make sure that the tree can grow as much as it would like to.
And there is no end to how far it can grow?
Yeah.
All it needs is land?
It just keeps going. It's pretty amazing.
And is someone maintaining it, or just this is just nature and this is what it does?
Yeah, and in Hawaii, they kind of, everyone maintains all of the nature in Hawaii. It's really, Pele and Mother Nature are very important in the Hawaiian culture. Mm-hmm. So taking care of the earth is something that's taught to children from birth there.
Oh, okay. And is that even true from Americans who go to Hawaii? Did they learn that lesson?
I feel like, yes. I feel like when you set foot in Hawaii for the first time and then when you leave, I've never met anyone who's been there who hasn't said that it's changed them.
Oh, okay.
It's definitely, the Hawaiian culture is a beautiful thing. It's a great experience.
We have, I've had a guest on for a few times during the course of the years I've been doing this, who was actually involved with therapeutic horses. And she just recently moved permanently to Hawaii because her daughter was living there, so I miss her. So that's so you can see what her draw was. Of course, her child, but you can see why maybe her child went out there and decided this is the place where I really want to live.
Yeah, the plane ride home from Hawaii every year has most people in tears. It's a hard place to leave.
Oh,
it really gets inside of you.
Right, and it is a truly multicultural place. It's the original Hawaiians there, and all of the other Asians who've moved there over the course of 100 years or so.
Exactly.
And then, of course, all of our Americans moving there as well, and having a big military base there also brings sailors there as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of I would think it would be very an interesting place. I've never been there, as I said, but it is definitely on the bucket list of a place that one should see before they leave this world.
Well, I tell everyone that if Hawaii is on your bucket list, to just erase the rest of your list and go to Hawaii.
Okay.
Yeah, it really is a remarkable experience. And selling Hawaiian photography here is really nice because I get a lot of people who see a place that they've been to, and I get these wonderful stories about people who were married there or, went on family vacations there and the way it changed their lives. So it's really nice. It seems to be a really nice way to connect with people.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that is very interesting. Is that picture also in a book?
That was my second finalist for the Nikon contest. So that one's also in another Best of Hawaii book, Best of Photography book.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, if people have been to Hawaii, probably have seen this.
If you've been to Maui and you've been to the town of Lahaina, which most people do visit when they're in Maui, you've probably been to this park.
Okay, so it is a familiar sight for people who are visitors.
It is, yep, but it's a lot, it's almost ominous at dark, the way that they light it. And I sat for quite a long time waiting for no one to be in the park to get the photo.
Yes, there is. That's interesting. And do you use a tripod for this one, or you just
This one I did use a tripod for, yes, because the light was so dark that I really needed the extra stability.
Interesting. And we have another photograph, And this one is like with a little turtle. That's a turtle?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's actually quite a big turtle. This is a Hawaiian green sea turtle. This was taken on the island of Oahu. And there's a lot of interesting things about sea turtles. First of all, they are the friendliest animals. That I compare them to puppies. When you're swimming in the ocean and they see you, they will come right up to you wanting to play. Yeah, they're very, very sweet. They're very colorful, and they beach themselves every evening, usually in the exact same place every day. An interesting thing about turtles is that the spots that you see on their faces are almost like fingerprints, and they're all different. So I'm able to go back year after year and see if it's the same turtle that I'm photographing. This guy's one of my favorites. He seems to enjoy the camera. An interesting thing about Hawaiian sea turtles is they are endangered due to all the plastic in the ocean.
Oh, yes, yes. Big controversy. Yes.
So that's been...
no straws anymore, no plastic bags. Let's save the earth. Definitely, yeah.
It's pretty amazing how much plastic is in the ocean. They were saying that, there's enough plastic in the ocean to fill 5 grocery bags full of plastic for every foot of coastline in the world right now. So Americans, we go through 500 million straws a day. And each straw takes over 500 years to decompose. Oh my goodness. So these straws are ending up in the noses of sea turtles and really doing a lot to endanger them. So I've switched to metal and plastic straws. And if we do that, we have the chance to save over 100 million marine animals a year.
Just by substituting that.
Exactly.
Now, I've been given cotton straws.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. I don't think they could last very long.
Right.
But I'm assuming that they are degradable.
I would think so too, yeah.
Yeah, and of course the metal I've seen where you just reuse it.
Yes.
Clean it and just reuse it. At least you wouldn't be able to do that in a store perhaps, but you certainly could do that at home.
I've actually been to restaurants and bars in Rhode Island lately that are only selling metal straws and no longer using the plastic.
Oh, within the bar or restaurant itself.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it just takes a little effort, and of course there is a big discussion in Rhode Island, and has been in parts of Connecticut, about eliminating the grocery bags, the plastic grocery bags.
Yes, they've actually done that in Hawaii already as well.
Oh, I could see that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we were actually there when it happened, and there was about a week of people not really knowing what to do, and then it's not a big deal at all. You bring your own bag or you use paper, and it works out very well.
Interesting, yes. And this is something every single one of us can do without a great deal of, certainly, sacrifice of any kind. I mean,
exactly.
Just go get the reusable or get a paper bag, and you can use a paper bag a few times as well. It's not all that difficult to do.
That's very true.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, the first time you swim with a sea turtle, it will make you never want to use a plastic straw again.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's an interesting kind of story. So those are the photographs you've given us. You've given us like a little taste, and most of this all of this was Hawaiian. Yes,
these were all Hawaiian. I do a lot of photography around here as well, and New England, and basically everywhere where I travel. But Hawaii is definitely my favorite place to photograph.
Absolutely. If there's something to contrast cloudy New England, but we do have a lot of coastline, with vibrant color Hawaii, what's the attraction in terms of New England photography? What's it about us here that is interesting?
Well, there's so much history here. So many really old buildings, and we have beautiful lighthouses, and we have beautiful beaches as well. So I'd like to do a lot of photography here too.
Okay, all right. So that would be the swan song for New England photography. We got the beach, and we got lighthouses, and we do have a lot of history. We've been around in this part of the country for the 1600s out there with coming from Europe and and going to war with all the natives here, and then just going to war with each other.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes. And this part of Connecticut, you probably don't know much about. Groton happens to be one of those major historical places. New London, and of course Norwich up the river. Those three towns, which is often where our viewing audience on TV actually is, has this huge amount of course, history, pre-colonial history.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So you've also branched out from going to just photography to other kinds of creations.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And also tell us, because you have a art show that you want to talk to us about.
Yes, I'm involved in Hop Arts, which is an amazing artist trail in Hopkinton and Richmond, Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. And what it is it's a whole bunch of different artists who open their studios and sometimes their homes to the public for a weekend. Uh-huh. So a lot of artists do a lot of demonstrations, and we all sell our art at that point too. There is everything from ceramics to jewelry to painting to photography, sketches, just about everything in between. I show every year at a place called Higher Grounds Coffee House
cute name.
In Hope Valley, and I sell a lot of my products there. I do sell everything from canvases to prints, and then I've branched out to a lot of different products as well. So I sell coffee mugs and greetings cards, playing card sets. I have these nice slates here, which are really fun. Yep, and computer covers to wallets and small bags. Really everything in between. I have puzzles and all sorts of fun things, so everyone can have a reason to own some art.
That is very good, to make it possible for a kid to have something, an inexpensive holiday gift, perhaps.
Definitely.
When is this occurring?
So this year the trail is October 13th and 14th.
So that's a Saturday and a Sunday?
It is, yep. And you can pick up a Hop Arts map at one of the first locations, and then it will guide you all through all of the different artists in the different locations through town.
Is there a website or contact where people who are not from Hope Valley or Richmond could find out about this?
Absolutely, and because of the season and all of the wonderful foliage and everything, we get a lot of people who travel to Rhode Island just for this. The website is hoparts.org.
HOPARTS?
Yes.
.org.
Yes, and
Okay.
there you can see what artists are participating this year,
Okay.
and I believe you can even download a map.
That's great.
To get you around.
And how many artists do you think ordinarily participate in something like this?
I would guess probably anywhere from 20 to 40, depending on the year.
Interesting. So this has been going on for a number of years.
It has for many years. This is about my 4th year participating, and it's one of my favorite art shows of the year.
Interesting.
The only thing that's hard for being in it is I can no longer do the trail. So I'm always asking people as they come in what the other artists are showing, because I've been going on the trail for years.
I see. Okay. And literally it's actually in people's houses?
Yep, sometimes in people's houses, sometimes in studios, and other times we set up at local businesses.
Do the rest of the time, do you get together for any purpose with your other fellow artists who participate in this?
We do sometimes. We get together for a lot of meetings.
Okay.
And, it's a kind of small community, so a lot of us are friends. So we get together periodically just for that reason as well.
So is this a year-round, it's obviously not a year-round event, but is it a year-round organization?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yep, it's a nonprofit organization, and we work together throughout the year to make sure that the trail is really successful every year.
That's interesting. Because, of course, we are the art studio, meaning this studio. This TV studio is the art studio for Groton, Connecticut. I mean, once upon a time, there were others, including at the University of Connecticut at Avery Point. Now, because of all kinds of stuff, we are the only nonprofit art gallery And when you come through the door, I don't know if you've noticed, there's the banner, it says Art Gallery.
I did.
And that's where artists, we promote artists to come and show here because we want to take up that mantle. We want to be the place where artists can come and show their beautiful work. So we're always interested in finding what other art groups are actually doing. And of course, I come from Westerly, Rhode Island, and Westerly has their arts cooperative that they've had for many, many years,
yes,
where they have a bunch of shows and stuff. And I'll put a plug in for them since I lived right there. Their big change is they used to be part of downtown Westerly's United Theater complex. So the United Theater is under major renovations, and they were kicked out. But they found, I think, a much, much better venue. They are now headquartered with all of their artwork in the Westerly train station.
Oh, that's great.
Amtrak years ago did some major renovation to the train station, and then in their wisdom closed the train station. So not even the bathrooms were open. And now, because of this effort to house the art cooperative, the train station, which is a beautiful train station, is now open for the public again.
Oh, that's excellent.
It is, and then we, of course, have a lot of traffic that comes from Boston and New York and Washington who take that Amtrak train. Now they have an opportunity to stop and to see something really interesting. So I think, my prediction only, that the art cooperative will find being housed in the Amtrak station to be an incredible, by accident perhaps, fabulous marketing thing that just fell in their lap.
Definitely.
So it's interesting what happens and what groups do to try and keep things together. Beside the trail, do you as artists have any other show, or it's only an annual show?
We just do this once a year.
Okay.
I'm involved in a lot of other things as well, though. I sell a lot of my product at a local farmer's market in South Kingston.
Okay.
Both in the summer and winter.
Outside?
Outside in the summer and indoor in the winter.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yep, so that's a really fun thing too. There's a lot of other artists as well as amazing produce and honey and maple syrup and just about anything that you could want.
Right, right. It's interesting because authors are sometimes involved with farmers markets. And there is, I belong to a group called CAPA, which is Connecticut Authors and Publishers Association. And we provide authors an opportunity to sell at farmers markets here in Groton, at one of the parks, and in New London. So that's a kind of an, so we don't have really artists. We have authors though, and they have made arrangements to be in the farmers market.
Oh, that's
so
excellent.
Yes, and the farmers market being promoted is actually through the government wanting people who are poor to have the opportunity to buy fresh produce.
Fresh produce makes a big difference in your health.
It does indeed, and there's this opportunity because some of these people, there's no supermarket and there's no opportunity to buy fresh produce, so these farmers markets have become the place where people go to get corn and vegetables and peaches and even cherries at certain times of the year. It's just a grand thing. So farmers markets are places for people to go for a lot more than simply buying their fruits and vegetables.
Absolutely, yes.
So how'd you get involved with the farmers market in terms of your being a photographer?
Well, I knew a few people who were involved, a few other artists who suggested it to me, and as soon as I started it, I just loved it. You know, you become a little family. So it's been a really nice experience to be part of that.
That's great. That's great. So tell us a little bit more about how you sell your stuff in terms of the business of being an artist, because I think maybe other artists listening might be able to pick up a few clues, like you went to school, you learned a little bit, then you're out there doing a bunch of stuff. So what's the secret of making art into a business?
Well, the biggest thing is to not give up. It's very difficult at the beginning to keep your feet going, you know. But you just have to find a lot of different outlets. You know, I've done countless gallery showings. I do a lot of advertising. But mostly the farmers market has been huge for me.
Really?
Because that's a lot of customers come there, and whether we just get into a nice conversation or they find out, that I do Santa shoots in the winter, or, they just become friends with me, and all of a sudden I'm photographing their wedding. This happens a lot.
Yes.
It's a really nice way to meet people. The one thing I would say to a photographer starting out is to just do everything you can. And there was many years where I just you just can't stop. That's really what it is. If you take a little rest, it's gone. So I've been working very, very hard at this. And I'm really happy to have, this is my 5th consecutive year of a sustainable business where I don't have to do anything else. So it's great, and it's the happiest I've ever been in my life.
That's wonderful. And of course, I don't know if the camera can tell, but there's going to be a Caitlin Jr. or Sir coming very soon.
Yes.
Now, is that going to interfere with your October Hop Arts
No,
trail?
she's due about a month before the trail.
Okay.
So I plan to bring her with me. Everyone can come and meet the Caitlin Jr. on the Hop Arts Trail this year.
Oh, that's great. Well, your own child will be your inspiration for taking photographs, because I'm sure this child, from the moment of birth, will be under the eye of a camera continuously.
She will. She's going to get pretty sick of this camera pretty fast, I think. But we'll make it fun for her, like we always do for children.
Right. The years will be documented by the camera.
Absolutely, yes.
So when you went from doing landscaping to doing portraits, what do you have? Do you have to kind of change your mindset about how you work with the camera?
They're two very different animals, definitely. But, all of my friends with all of their children, I've been photographing for years. So it only seemed like the next step for me.
Okay.
I have a lot of fun with the children, too. So it really started with just primarily photographing children. And then from there went on to weddings and events.
Oh, okay.
And I do senior portrait photography for high school kids.
Oh, okay.
All the way up to, portraits for authors for the back of their books. So
yes.
I'm really touching on everything, and it's nice to have a private studio where I can kind of do whatever I'd like at any given moment. So.
Okay, and it's open 24 hours a day. Is it in your home or attached?
Yep, it's attached to my home on my property, which is really nice because it's not a long commute to work.
A couple of steps and you're right there.
Exactly. It'll be nice for the baby too. She doesn't have to go far. But I plan on getting right back into the swing as soon as the baby.
And do you ever do film anymore, or is it strictly digital?
I really only do film as for fun now.
Okay.
But I do all of my work strictly digital, yes.
Strictly digital. Do you have a kind of favorite kind of portrait in terms of the subject?
I really enjoy photographing children. I have a lot of fun with that, and I connect very well with kids. So I think over the years I developed a good knack to getting the real smiles out of them. We don't do any cheese in the studio.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we don't do any of that. No, we have a lot of fun.
Okay.
And then that really reflects in the photographs.
Is there a different technique for 3-year-olds versus 13-year-olds?
There's a different technique for every child. It really depends on the child. So we do, when the kids arrive at the studio, we play and hang out for a little while and have some fun. And then we move on to taking photos.
Right.
When they're really comfortable.
And the child is usually by themselves? In other words, is strictly a photograph of one child at a time?
I actually do multiple children at a time, and I do full families as well.
Okay. Is that a big, I would think that's a nice present for the holidays, to send to grandma and aunts and uncles and whoever else is out there.
It really is. And for kids especially, children change so fast.
Oh, they do.
That I have a lot of parents who bring their children back multiple times a year just so that you don't miss any of it.
So you can track their development.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. Are girls harder than boys, or it doesn't matter?
Actually, girls tend to be easier than boys.
They are.
We tend to like to put on a pretty dress and pose for the camera. Boys are a little bit more difficult sometimes, but I've yet, knock on wood, I have yet to have a child who absolutely refused. We always get something really good out of it.
Okay,
So.
even if you have to bribe them to sit tight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
It's really all about making friends.
Yes.
Once they feel comfortable with you and you have some fun, then everything goes really well.
Does it help a shy child to actually be photographed? I mean, does it give them a little more confidence?
It really does. And a lot of what I do, too, is I let the kids see the portraits as we're taking them.
Oh, okay.
And once they see how cute they are, they get a little bit more into it.
Oh, okay. Very good. Do they get to choose which one? I guess mom and dad actually choose which one to pick.
Yes, mom and dad usually choose the ones to pick, but the kids choose the ones they look the cutest in.
Oh, okay. All right. That's great. Is it hard to, you get these big families? I mean, is that hard to do where you get not only mom and dad and a couple of kids, but maybe other adults and grandma and grandpa and the whole thing?
You know, it can be a little challenging. But primarily, I have pretty good luck with it. It's all about connecting with your subjects. If everyone feels really comfortable and they're having a good time during the photo shoot, then you get some really great pictures.
Right, right. And there's always going to be one who's obstinate, and you've got to do a lot more attention giving to get them to cooperate, I would imagine.
It's very true, yes. Yep.
Is it easy to do animals? I mean, like dogs and cats. Do you actually do that?
I do a lot of that, actually, and I find that having the private studio where I can close all the windows, and the only thing going on in that studio is me and the cookie in my hand. So that will change a lot of dogs' perception, and actually, a lot of dogs react very well to the lights and the flashing.
Oh, really?
And it will, almost get them deer in a headlight, so they'll stay still for us.
Oh, they're kind of,
yeah,
like in shock. Right,
yes.
right.
But we have a lot of fun, like putting puppies in baskets with flowers and lots of fun things like that as well.
Do you have some unusual story to tell us about photographing a dog or a cat?
Well, I have a neighbor who went on vacation, and I was babysitting their dog for them. And their dog is somewhat neurotic. It doesn't like much of anything.
Okay.
And really doesn't ever sit still. But when I brought him up to the photo studio, his whole dynamic changed. And he really liked it. So we got some really cute photos of him. And I didn't tell them that I had taken the portraits until I had some throw pillows made with their dog on it. And just kind of left them in the house. And they really enjoyed that. And they, to this day, keep saying, we don't know how you got that dog to sit still.
Oh, that's cute. That is great. You got a good kid story, too?
Oh, tons of good kid stories. I have a bunch of kids who I've been photographing since they were born. And now they're at the point where coming to my studio is an exciting time for them. And as soon as they come up, they know that we're going to have fun and we're going to play, and they know the drill.
Right.
So, the more times the kids visit me and the studio, the easier everything becomes and the better the photos.
Interesting. Is there something specific about the physical layout of the studio that in fact makes it comfortable? And I'm talking for people who might be interested in creating this kind of studio. What are the dimensions of the studio itself that you think lend themselves to making the potential portraitee, or if that's the right word, comfortable?
Well, it's a large studio, one large room, and we have a lot of props and, for kids, lots of fun little outfits and hats and tutus and things that they can choose from if they'd like. I also have an area just full of kids' toys. So if the kids don't feel like getting their portrait taken at the moment, we play for a little while. And I think that really helps them to feel comfortable.
Right.
They choose when the photographs start, which is very helpful in getting real smiles out of them. Right. I also have a nice lounging area for families to watch the photo session, in progress, which is also really nice, especially when Santa's there. Mom and Dad love to sit back with a cup of hot cocoa and watch their children interact with Santa Claus. That's a really
So
fun time.
you find someone to be Santa?
I do. I have a Santa Claus, and
you have the
he's
same
amazing
same
at
person.
it.
Okay.
That actually started with a friend's son who's autistic, and he couldn't handle going to the mall to see Santa. It was just too much. So we had Santa come to the studio, and it's kind of just evolved from there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think we had over 60 kids last year come to visit Santa in the studio.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's fun. We call it the Santa experience. So they read a book with Santa. Sometimes they play with a toy, or they put together a model of something. They have cookies and milk. It's a nice experience for everyone involved.
It's like being in Santa's workshop, I suppose.
Exactly.
Yes, interesting. What other kind of interesting things, stories like that, in terms of things that make you as a photographer different than some other photographer, that some other people watching this might learn from and maybe steal from you?
Well, yeah, I mean, what people have told me really sets me apart is the amount of friendship that I put into it. I find that just posing a family doesn't get the best photographs.
Right.
It's really about loosening people up and doing a lot of laughing. And that's when you get, the real, true feeling and emotion from people out in their photographs. I tend to spend a little more time than I usually, intend for, just to make sure that we get that real feeling from people.
And I'm sure that visually, when you capture it, everyone knows it. That it's not something under discussion. That's it. That's the moment. That's how I feel. And this is really, you want to produce feel-good moments, I would assume.
Absolutely. It's all about capturing memories. Every moment is just a moment in time that's gone.
Right, exactly.
And with photography, we're able to capture it and make it last forever.
So you evolved from doing the portraits to now you do weddings and maybe parties and all of that kind of stuff?
I sure do.
Yes.
All of the above.
All of the above. And that's where you have to go somewhere else, obviously.
Yes, I do a lot of on-location shoots, though. A lot of families would like, they have a special park, or where they got engaged, or where they got married, or I do a lot of backyard things, too, for people who don't want to leave the house. I can also bring the studio to you. Is another thing that I offer. So.
Right. So you've gone from being a little bit hesitant and worrying about whether this is going to be what you're going to do for a living, to over 5 years?
Yes.
To the point where I'm comfortable in my shoes and I'm with my cameras. And I imagine you got several different cameras.
I do, yes. I work primarily with Nikons, but I have a few different cameras and many different lenses.
I see.
That all lend themselves.
What would make a difference in terms of a choice of a camera? What would make one different than another?
Well, you can have your full frame or your crop sensor cameras. I use full frame cameras mostly for when I'm doing large families, for photos that may end up being blown up really large. And I always use a full frame when I'm doing my landscape photography.
I bet,
That way you can get a lot of detail. And I have canvases that I blow up to 4 and 5 feet. So you can see a lot of detail. And so I always use a full frame camera for that. And then more than anything, it's the lenses. It's choosing a different lens for each photo that I'm going for.
Right.
To see how much of it will be in focus and things like that.
And what about lighting is in the studio itself? I mean, I'm sure you don't have lights like we have here in our studio, but you must have a whole bunch of different kinds of lighting.
I do. I have a lot of different lighting. Some kids don't like the flashing. So when that's the case, we can switch to lights that just stay on all the time. And then I've got, all the flashing lights as well. And we have a lot of different backdrops and flooring choices and props. So every photo shoot is different from the one before.
That's interesting, and it's from the way you're describing it. It is not. This is an expensive kind of venture. In other words, you've got to make a commitment, and you've got to be really devoted to that commitment to be able to be successful, because you need everything in order to be good at it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is definitely a very expensive venture, which is one of the reasons why it's so hard at the beginning for a lot of photographers to take the leap.
Yes.
But I took the gnarly leap of faith and I invested in myself, and it is all paying off. So this is exactly where I want to be, and this is definitely what I'll be doing for the rest of my life.
That's wonderful. Caitlin, I want to thank you for coming here. Put one more plug in for that Hop Arts trail. What is that? October
13th and 14th.
October 13th and 14th. If people want information about it, it's hoparts.org. Get a map, find out about everything, find out about what Caitlin is going to be presenting. So that's a great thing. Art is our thing here at the studio, so I want to thank you for coming and sharing with us. I hope our audience got a good time, and I hope they come and see you at Hop Arts, and keep an eye on you. And you have a website. There you are.
Yep.
With your website, and for information for people to go ahead and contact you if they would like to make an appointment or just follow your stuff that you're doing. That's wonderful. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm Harriet Grayson, and I'm your host and producer, and I want to tell you a little bit of some of the stuff that's going on in the neighborhood. Many of you know that I have organized what I call literary salons, and I've gotten two wonderful venues in downtown Westerly, Rhode Island, who are my hosts for this fabulous venture. So we talk about art in terms of the visual arts. So what I'm pushing forward is literary arts. So we call it Literary Salon, from the whole concept of having people come to a venue to sit and to talk with the artist, have them read their work, have them be questioned by an audience, to have coffee, wine, cheese, whatever, and to have a relaxing kind of feeling. So that's what I'm trying to create in Literary Salon. I've gotten the backing from two wonderful local businesses, the Malted Barley. Shout out to Colin Bennett, who's been my helper and sponsor for this. These are what we call Literary Salon Books and Brews. Brews because he's one of the craft beer guys, and also makes delicious pretzels. You can have a pretzel sandwich there. Books and Brews is the fourth Tuesday of every month. So as you're viewing this, August 28th, Tuesday, 7 o'clock, upstairs, Books and Brews. We're going to have a really nice discussion with a few artists. As many of you know, I do novel writing under my pen name, Anastasia Goodman. So I'll be discussing my newest book, The Terrorist. And we have a bunch of other artists who will be there. Have a nice beer, have a pretzel, listen to the artists, and of course we'd love you to support the artists by buying their work. But listen, they really, really, really want is an audience. Then we have, with the support of Tapped Apple, which actually sells cider and is a winery, also in downtown Westerly, on the first Wednesday of the month. This will be September 5th. We are going to have a celebration, more or less a commemoration of 9/11. And I have got a writer who is going to blow your socks off. He is going to read a story called Falling Man, which is his surreal reflections of that horrible day, 9/11, when the towers came down. And I'll be there discussing My Terrorist, because this novel is about the reaction by the government to the terrorist scare, and how we started with the CIA with these prisons in Eastern Europe where we interrogate terrorist suspects. And my hero, Sasha Perloff, is called to interrogate a terrorist in Eastern Europe. So that's going to be a really opportunity to get a sense of how that terrible event has made artists and writers, give them a reflection about what's going on. So I hope you'll come and join us. Again, it's August 28th, Books and Brews at the Malted Barley, downtown Westerly. These start at 7 p.m., so it's a nice thing. Right in the early evening, takes about an hour, hour and a half, stay a couple of hours, chit-chat with the authors, and then our incredible 9/11 salute on September 5th at the Tapped Apple, which is a cidery and winery, and you'll have an opportunity to drink fabulous wine and cider and hear this incredible story by Charlie Kellogg, Falling Man. This is Harriet Grayson, your host and producer for Community Culture Showcase. Join me at Literary Salon, and by all means, go to Hop Arts and visit with Caitlin.